Hello, I'm Adam Barralet and welcome to this Crystal Connections video where we're exploring the influences of the planet Saturn. So Saturn is a planet that's pretty easy to identify in a lineup of all the planets. It's the one that has the rings around it. That is a ring of dust and ice, and it actually has quite a lot of moons circulating around Saturn as well. Now, when it comes to astrology, it's really easy to remember what Saturn is about. Think about those rings kind of being wrapped around it. The negative connotations of Saturn's influence is about limitation and restriction and kind of clamping down and not allowing things to flow freely. However, I like to look at Saturn in a slightly more positive way. Whereas Jupiter is very much about expansion, Saturn is very much about discipline. What Saturn wants you to achieve in your life is mastery. And how we do that is through discipline and focus. And that is the influence that Saturn will bring into us. Now, we can each look at our astrological chart to see how Saturn plays out and how our discipline and our focus may be kind of playing out in different aspects of our life. However, there are two main ways that Saturn will influence the global community. The first one is during Saturn retrograde. Now, you've probably heard of Mercury retrograde before. Mercury retrograde, of course, is when Mercury looks like it's going backwards in the sky. But all the planets go into retrograde. And Saturn spends about 5 to 6 months of the year actually in retrograde. There are certain things that you'll notice happen during this time. First of all, because Saturn is not helping us with our own inner discipline, the discipline that comes from outside ourselves, maybe in the forms of authority or other people giving us recommendations, will start to get rather frustrating. We may start to get a bit annoyed, and you may actually sense a bit of aggression within yourself and aggression out in the community as well. Being told what to do will really fire you up because you're lacking your own motivation, and it will only be mirroring that as well. Also, what you find during Saturn retrograde is you get this kind of tendency of history repeating itself. And you'll really be hitting your head against the wall going, really? I thought we'd gone through this in our relationship. I thought we'd gone through this at work. I thought we'd solved that. Now remember, sometimes we need to repeat a lesson several times to prove that we have become the master of it before we can go to the next level. During Saturn retrogrades, this is exactly what happens. You'll find a reoccurrence of things that have happened in the past, and this is your test to see, have I mastered this, or am I going to fall back into my own ways? Maintain your discipline, maintain your inner strength, and pass the test, and what you'll find is that you will start to evolve and new opportunities will come as Saturn goes direct again. You may also find that during Saturn retrograde, time slows down. So this is not a time to rush or cut corners. It's a time to be diligent, focused, and get things done. Saturn is also the planet that manages time. And so when we manage our time and spend our time wisely, we are benefited and we get the rewards of Saturn's blessing. So Saturn retrograde happens each year for about 5 or 6 months of the year. Plus, there is another phenomenon that happens with Saturn, which is really, really interesting. It's known as Saturn returns. It takes Saturn 29.5 years to revolve around the sun, to do a full circle. So when you hit the age around 29.5, what happens is Saturn comes back to the same point it was exactly when you were born. This is known as Saturn returns. And what tends to happen here is there tends to be a bit of a review of life. There tends to be a bit of a crisis. It's when we start to come to the realization that our youthful charm and our abundant energy is probably not going to get us through life. And we start to question, what is my direction of life and where am I going? So I remember when I was around that 29, 30 age, I decided I wasn't going to live in Perth anymore. I had to do more with my life, that I was kind of coasting along. And that's when I started moving to Melbourne and then Toronto and New York and that kind of thing. I thought by 30 I'd have it all done. I thought I'd have a partner. I thought I'd have a house. But I didn't have any of that. I was just kind of working casual jobs and didn't really have a life path. But I kicked that off, and that's what the Saturn returns really helps you to do. It can be a bit depressing. I know other people that are going through Saturn returns at the moment, and they're wanting to get piercings and tattoos and kind of break free of that conformity and that type of thing. The great honor, or the great opportunity, I should say, of Saturn returns is to go, it's a refocusing. It's a time to start getting strong foundations and think about the rest of our life and how we're going to move forward. It doesn't just happen around that 29.5, 30 years of age. It also happens when we are about 59, going into that kind of retirement age, and again at 88. So these are great times to kind of hunker in and look at when you're working with Saturn. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to explore 5 different essential oils that you can use to support you when you're working with Saturn, whether it be in your own astrological chart, whether it be in Saturn retrograde, or when it be during Saturn returns. These oils all have a Saturnian energy and really help with what we've been discussing so far. So let's dive in and explore 5 essential oils to help us work with Saturn energy. If I could select only one oil when I'm working with Saturn, it would definitely be basil. Basil is an amazing essential oil, and the Greeks and Romans used to say that basil helps to put a scorpion in the mind. Now, physically, I like to use basil when I find that I'm overdoing it and I'm exhausting myself. And that tends to happen when, in an effort to be everything to everyone and trying to do everything with all that youthful energy, we end up being nothing to no one. We spread our energy too thin. Basil helps us focus our body. It's really good for the adrenals, and I'll mix it with a coconut oil and rub it on my adrenals and on the soles of my feet at night. But I'll also use it in meditation and in the diffuser to help me zone in on what I'm trying to do. That's what Saturn wants you to do. It wants you to refine your own discipline. And we often think of discipline as being, this thing that's forced upon me. But it is through discipline that we become masters of different things, and we actually start to make a significant contribution in the world and start to, receive fruitful rewards through the accumulation of our hard work as well. So basil, being a leaf oil, really helps with the mind to focus that in. It is great for going, okay, with your limited time, energy and resources, what am I going to do? I'm not going to worry about other things around me. I'm going to focus on what's important to me. Whether it be the popular basil oil or even Tulsi, holy basil, these are really, really great for stopping you worrying about the excessive and focusing on what really fills your heart and what you feel your spiritual mission is and what allows your light to shine in the world. Another really great oil to work with when we're working with Saturn energy, or Saturn is having a bit of an influence in our lives, is Arborvitae. Arborvitae is part of the cypress family, although it is sometimes nicknamed the Western red cedar. It is a tree that grows in North America and grows very, very tall, high up into the heavens, with very few branches going out either side. Now, the oil in this tree, in the heartwood of this tree, is so thick that nothing will eat into it. No rot, no insects. Even when it falls over at the end of its life, it still stands there and doesn't allow anything to get into it. Now, do you find sometimes in life you've got things that you're here to do, to focus on, to have that discipline, but then there's these temptations, or there's people bugging you or pestering you that kind of pull you off your path? Well, this is where Arborvitae is really good. Just as the oil is really good for stopping insects bugging it, and also you, it's a great insect repellent as well, it's also absolutely amazing for helping you stay on your path and not get distracted and pulled away as well. I love to either diffuse it, meditate with it. I love to wear it as my natural fragrance, or if you really want to do an empowering kind of focusing energy practice, pop a little drop in your belly button, stand bare feet on the ground, and just smell a bit more in, and really allow its energy to seep throughout you. You see, growing up to the heavens, Arborvitae helps us to understand what is our divine purpose and helps us to connect with our guides. It helps to sweep away sadness and bring joy back into our lives. And when we find that joy in what we're really here to do, we can zone in on that. And Arborvitae will really help you to do that when you find that you're feeling a bit distracted, and when you really don't know what you're meant to be doing, definitely reach for Arborvitae. Another really strong boundary essential oil is clove. Now, clove comes from flowers, but unlike most other essential oils that come from the full flower, it just comes from the flower bud. This definitely has an energy of boundaries, and it is a strong antioxidant oil, so it gets rid of what doesn't serve us in the body, and it gets rid of what doesn't serve us in our life. Because whenever we have these times when we're working with Saturn around Saturn retrograde or as Saturn returns, where we're looking at focusing on what actually serves us and what is important and remembering our lessons, clove can be really, really great. Clove is like I think of this big roller door, or this big kind of palace door shutting down and going, no, you're definitely not coming in. I won't allow anything that's going to take me off my path to attract my attention in that type of way. Clove helps us to remain disciplined to what we want. And so when we're working through those lessons, or when we're being challenged with history repeating itself during a Saturn retrograde, we can really anchor into Clove to make sure that we don't go back to old habits. It is sometimes known, where it is native, as the flower of the gods. And again, it's going to help us to reach our divine, or our most, idealized form, by hitting the lessons that we need to hit, by mastering the things we need to master. Clove will really give you that strength to do that. So cleaning the house with it, using it as a mouth rinse, diffusing it, meditating with it, will really help you to zone in on what you need to do, say no on what doesn't serve you, and stop you getting pulled back into old habits that no longer serve you when you find that history starts repeating itself. Patchouli essential oil is really interesting, and it can have a dualistic effect. Have just a little bit of patchouli and it can actually act as an aphrodisiac, but have too much of it and it can have the opposite effect. Metaphysically, patchouli, which is gifted to us from the small plant's leaves, is really, really powerful at, again, attracting what we want into our lives and attracting what we do not want in our lives. When we're working with Saturn, we're looking at becoming focused, restricted, and only giving our attention to that which we want. We can work with patchouli to actually start to repel things that do not serve us, whether that be people, whether that be opportunities or things in our life, or even thought patterns. We can use patchouli to start using positive affirmations to change our mindset. We can also, put patchouli outside the front of our house to stop unwanted visitors. You can diffuse it in your space to create a sanctuary and go, no, I don't want anyone to interrupt me, so that you can focus on your own work. Patchouli as well, being an attractive oil, as we start to go through Saturn returns, we start to feel not so attractive, but we can still have that ability to attract people into our lives. What I find for patchouli, although it's an aphrodisiac, it can be used magically for attracting people that are really going to serve you and your greater good in your life. We start to review sometimes our friends around Saturn returns and go, are these people really bringing out the best in me, and are they going to help me to be successful in life, or are they just kind of fun at the moment? Now, we definitely want to have some fun, but we also want to make sure that people are allowing us and helping us to grow to be our best. The people we surround ourselves with have a big influence on us. So when you're kind of wanting to get clear on what you want in your life and what you don't, work with patchouli. Then you can start to create and visualize, as you meditate, inhaling this essential oil, of the right people coming in, the wrong people going away. And it's a really powerful oil for, anchoring and getting that differentiation between them. Patchouli also helps us to really drop into the present. And sometimes when we're doing a bit of a life review, when we're, doing a Saturn returns, it's really good to kind of look at, okay, where am I at? Where am I right now? And where do I want to be? The other great thing can be when we get a little bit angry, or when we're being tested during a Saturn retrograde and we go, oh, again? Really? Does this have to happen? Well, patchouli can help you anchor in to find where you are in that present and not allow you to go back in old habits. Old habits normally are, jumping off and snapping and getting very kind of, edgy and aggravated and that type of thing. That shows that we've still got an issue there and there's still some anger there that's unresolved. Patchouli will just help you to stay calm and focused and deal with things in a disciplined and a focused and a graceful way. And that's what Saturn wants to see. As I mentioned at the start of this video, Saturn retrograde can bring up a bit of aggression within us and also in the community, because there'll be this kind of pushing against authority. They'll be pushing against, governments and what governments want us to do, bosses, parents, all these different types of things. And it's just because we don't have our own discipline and we don't like other people telling us what to do when we're ourselves not too sure. We don't have that strength of conviction, and so other people's conviction can seem overwhelming to us. This is where Hinoki essential oil is absolutely amazing. Now, Hinoki is another member of the cypress family, but its oil is very, very different to Arborvitae, which grows in North America. Hinoki is an honored cypress that is found in Japan, and again, the oil is gifted from the wood. Hinokis also grow very straight and upright, and the wood is often used for pagodas and religious buildings and monuments in that type of way. Hanoki works really well with the throat chakra, and it also brings in a very zen, kind of tranquil energy. It allows us to communicate clearly and concisely. Now, first of all, when we're being tested, when we're feeling aggressive, when history's repeating, when things aren't going fast enough, it allows us to be a bit more slow, concise, and precise, I guess, with our communication to make sure that we're not getting it. We know that as soon as we get snappy, it stops achieving things. And Hinoki allows you to kind of stay in that very calm way of communicating. It also is very much about precision, and it helps you to make sure, because during a Saturn retrograde, you don't want to be cutting corners. You don't want to just go, oh, you get it. You want to explain everything clearly, and Hinoki allows you to do that. Finally, Hinoki also not only helps you with communication with other people, but also communication with the universe. Often, we're clear on what we don't want, but are we clear on what we do want? If we're not able to give the universe clear messages on what we do want, then the universe is sitting there going, well, I know that you don't want this, but what do I give you? When we work with Hinoki, it creates this inner peace, this inner awareness, and then allows us, through meditation, through visualization, through our actions, our words, and our thoughts, to get really clear with the universe and say, this is what I would like, and please bring this into manifestation. You can put some Hinoki on your hands, breathe it into your lungs, your full lungs, and breathe it out, stating your wish. Universe, this is what I desire, and this is what I want to align with you to bring into my life. So these are my 5 essential oils when working with Saturn. Whether you're exploring different aspects of your astrological chart, whether it's a Saturn retrograde and we're all dealing with it, or you're turning 29.5, 58, or 59 or 88, and you're going through a Saturn returns. I'd love to know which essential oils you use when you're working with Saturn. Please leave it in the comment section below. Remember too, that not all essential oils are created the same. So you want to make sure that you're getting a pure essential oil that is actually gifted to us from Mother Nature and from the plant. If you'd like some more information on how to get some good quality oils and learn about oils a bit more, please feel free to reach out to me. My contacts are just below. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. I'm Adam Barralet. Blessed be.